So what are databases? Usually when I'm face-to-face, I like to ask students, how many of you have used the library's databases, just so I can get a sense of how familiar people are with them. And typically what students say is that they've used EBSCO the most. Now, EBSCO is a company that provides hundreds of different databases. But usually what students mean when they use EBSCO, when they say they've used EBSCO, is that they've used Academic Search Premier. Okay, this is our most used database in the library, and I suspect it's because it starts with the letter A and it's at the top of the list. But not just that, it's also a very good database. And so what are these? These are collections of information that are available by subscription. The library pays a lot of money for these because most of this information is copyrighted, it's owned by publishers, and it's not available for free. So if you do a search for these in Google, what you're going to find is that the publisher is going to ask you to pay often a quite hefty price per article. So there's two basic kinds of databases. There's multidisciplinary, and those include information from all of the different fields of study. So there'll be psychology, sociology, the sciences, the arts, the humanities, right? And that's, you can see a large list at the top, right? You've got Academic Search Premier all the way to Sage Journals. Then there are subject-specific databases that just contain information on a particular field. So you see here I've highlighted the literature databases and the history databases for you. So why do we have so many, right? Well, we have all of these because they contain different information, journals from different publishers, not just scholarly peer-reviewed journals, which is what most of your professors want you to use, but also magazines, trade publications, and those are publications from specific occupations, newspapers, increasingly videos and web content as well. Okay, and each database has kind of a different flavor, and the search interfaces are different, although they're all similar. They all do kind of the same thing, and if you've used them, you know that already. And some of them are unique. For instance, Sage Journals is only journals of the publisher Sage. That's all it includes. Okay. ProQuest Central is actually a combination of many different disciplinary databases combined into one. Project Muse tends to have a more scholarly inclination. So if you want more scholarly, literary, humanities type articles, Muse is a good place to go, as is JSTOR. JSTOR also has sort of a scholarly, humanistic bent. Gale Academic OneFile we don't use very much, but it's a database that's very similar to Academic Search Premier. And I've put it up here on top because I'd like people to use it more because it's a kind of a unique database. So let's just go into Academic Search Premier, right? And we'll do a search. Let's say I'm interested in the Rwandan genocide. So I'm just going to search. I like to start searches simply, right? So just do a simple search and then add to it. I find that works better. If you fill those boxes with every single thing that you might want and you get a 0, you don't know why you got a 0. It's better to actually start simple and build your search. So we've got 568 articles. Okay, I can do all these limits on the side. You can see it goes back to 94. So if you wanted to see articles that were actually written during the time that the genocide was going on, you would look at those 1994 articles, and that might actually be interesting. And the way you would do that quickly is, you see this is the sort pull down. You can sort by newest, oldest, author, relevance. So if we do oldest, we're going to get all of the articles from 1994 on top. Look at this. World leaders refuse to hear cry of Rwanda. Right. Questions the lack of response of world leaders to the violence in Rwanda. Indifference is matter of life and death for Rwandans. Rwanda as history's first media genocide. Okay, and there is the full text. And the full text will be the actual scanned copy, right? There you go. And this is in the National Catholic Reporter. Looks like it's a newspaper. And then here you've got all of your menu items, right? There's your Google Drive. You can download it to Google Drive. You can print, you can email it to yourself. You can save it to a folder. Don't recommend that at this point. There's your citations. There's the export, okay? So now if we wanted to limit this further, because we haven't really limited, we've just sorted by oldest. Let's put it back to relevance. We can do gender, right? We can limit it by gender. And now we've got 26, right? And there you go. I can't really tell. It looks like many of these are in, oh, there's a Rohingya one coming up. Rwanda after genocide, gender identity, and post-traumatic growth. That looks like a good one. So you're gonna see two things here, okay? You're gonna see articles that are, these are all gonna be full text because full text is the default. We've set that for you. That means that you can't see anything unless you have access to it. And then within that, you're going to see two things. You're going to see PDF, HTML, right, which are just different formats. And then you're also going to see linked full text. And what the linked full text is, it means the article is not in this journal. It is not in this database. It's going to take you to a database that contains it. So let me try to show you one of those, just so you see what it looks like. Things can go wrong, and that's why I'm showing you this. So let's say we want this one, right? So there's your linked full text. You're going to click on that, and then you're going to notice that it takes you outside of the database. Well, in this case, it didn't. In this case, you're still in there, so it's a little confusing. And what this is a book review. Okay, so those do come up. Typically, you probably shouldn't be using those, right? Like if you find a book review, rather than use that book review in your paper, or well, you're doing a project, so your situation is a little bit different, you probably would just want to look for that book. So let's go back to our results. And now once you've got 26, I wouldn't limit that anymore because that's a pretty small search, although you can always limit to peer-reviewed. If you're only interested in academic journals, you can limit to peer-reviewed. Gets you down to 22, which means that most of the ones we were looking at. And then look, reviews is a specific type. You usually don't want those. So when you can exclude those, do so. So there's academic journals. And so now you've got 19 peer-reviewed journals about the Rwandan genocide and gender. Okay, and there, so let's look at this one, which is about the Rohingya, because I'll show you one last thing. And that is, you see those subject terms? You can actually search on those. So let's say you're interested in women in the Rohingya crisis. So if you click on that, it will actually execute that search. And the first one is the one that we started with, right? And there you go. There are some other articles about Rohingya women, okay? And then now I only got 4 and I want more. So what can I do here? What can I do? Well, there are no limits. So what this would tell me is that there aren't a lot of articles about the Rohingya in this database, which is somewhat surprising, right? So I would either go to another database, or remember, this is a subject search, right? Because we clicked on subject. Getting rid of that DE will look for this term as a keyword. You see, so we just doubled our number of results. We got some more, okay? There you go. And now we're getting a lot of Time magazines, right? Remember that the Rohingya crisis, I believe, is fairly current, right? It goes back to 2016, 2017, at least since it's made the news. And books take a long time to write and publish, so that you're more likely to find, you'll find lots of books about most of your genocides, but the Rohingya crisis, there'll be fewer books just because it's more current. Okay, although I can certainly show you how to find historical information about the Rohingya people. Okay, one last thing I'm going to show you, search history. This is useful if you get confused, right? Nowadays, we've all got a lot going on. We've got a lot on our minds. We're anxious, we're stressed. You're doing a search, you forget. You can go back to search history and it'll show you everything you've done, right? Here's the first search, the second, the third, the fourth, and so on. And then you can view results from those searches and you can edit them as well. So that can be quite useful. So let's just go back to, okay. So we'll go back to our databases, and there we go. We just looked at Academic Search Premier. And I'm going to end the video here, and then I'll show you some other, I will show you, oops, didn't mean to do that. Didn't mean to do that. So I will do another video for another, for some of the other data.